Okay, so this is my 1964 Volkswagen Beetle, and it's one I've had for a couple of years, number of years, and I've just kind of worked on it where I can. But I figured I would start kind of documenting the process of the little different little things and everything that I've done. So to start with, yeah, it was in pretty rough shape when I got it. It hadn't run in a number of years when I got it, but yeah, I've just been slowly piecing everything back together. Like, didn't have headlights. It's got those now. Didn't have a ragtop. It's got that now. The interior is in pretty rough shape, but yeah, working on that. Big thing that's been done to it so far, or some of the big things that have been done to it so far. Let's see. Oh, my cord was cut. Okay, big things that have been done to it so far. Here's my little. Okay. So headlights were a big one. I redid the front suspension. You can see the stance looks pretty goofy with these small tires on it. And it was actually lowered the wrong way. They lowered it by taking out leaf springs out of the torsion suspension. So yeah, the suspension basically was just all the way bottomed out the whole time. So there was, yeah, basically no suspension. You hit a bump and it just bonk, just, nothing. So I put the leaf springs back in, and I'm gonna get drop spindles. So this will actually sit about 2 inches lower than it is right now, but that's future project. So I'm actually I'll get bigger tires when I go to get these replaced. The whole thing needed just tons of TLC. Like I said, I didn't have the ragtop. This is one I actually picked up used from someone online. I've got the other beam, beam for it there, but it's got tears. It's definitely seen the years, but I got it for free, and the mechanism works, and that's the big thing. And it stretches nice and tight, so that's nice. Interior, yeah, this is more or less how I got it. I've pulled some of the tar board out down there in the footwell, scraped some of the adhesive off. Still tons and tons of work. I did add the tack. So this is actually kind of one of my own little ideas. You guys, here's my light setup. Here's my light setup. That's basically two like Christmas LED lights. But yeah, so rather than like cutting a hole in the dash or doing something else, I took this little piece of square stock, did a little bend in it, drilled a hole to support the tack, and then it actually bolts in to the stock holes, so there's no didn't have to modify the dash at all for this to go in there. Okay, some more interior. Yeah, I have a fuel. Yeah, what are they? A gas gauge, fuel gauge that needs to go in. It did not have an e-brake when I got it. So, you know, it's just like a sit in gear, stay in gear type of thing. Okay. So now to get into kind of the meat of the car. Okay, so like I said, this had been sitting for about 3 years when I got it. Yeah, so, you know, there's a lot of, you know, kind of a big story behind it, but basically it'd been sitting for 3 years untouched. The previous owner had actually been incarcerated. So, um, yeah, so I ended up buying it from his dad, and his dad didn't know anything about it. The owner, the actual owner, was not available to really answer any questions aside from, yeah, you know, sell it. So I picked it up. I got it cheap, and I told the owner, or the owner's dad, that this was my car. Beetle. I've always wanted a Beetle, and I've always wanted a Ragtop. That is like, this was, you know, my dream. This is literally, you know, a lot of guys dream of, you know, hot Porsche or whatever. This is my dream car. I have wanted a Beetle since I was, you know, maybe not even 12. And so when I found out or heard that they were going to be selling this, I jumped on it as soon as I could. I told him, this is going to be my car. I said, I am not going to, you know, flip it, do a couple of quick things and turn it around. It's like, I'm going to keep this. My sons are going to drive it to their prom, you know, and, you know, I'm going to have this until the day I die. And that's exactly what he wanted. You know, his son had loved the car. He wanted to get it to somebody that was going to love it. And that's where I came in. So, as you can see, this is not a stock setup. And I was actually able to get a hold of the builder, of the engine builder that did the work on this car. So, this is actually a 2332 with a hideaway turbo and twin Dellortos. I think they're 52 Dellortos. I don't remember the size. Anyway. Oh, that's another big. Anyway, okay, so another big repair that I did. I actually rebuilt these carburetors. I've never done it before, but I got the Dellorto makes a really good book, and I followed that thing, you know, letter for letter, like perfectly. And these actually sing and absolutely hum. They're Could not ask. I'm so happy with how good these turned out. I did get the swapped manifolds, the intake manifolds. Normally, so all the adjuster screws on these are right here, and, you know, up in here. Okay. Normally, these carburetors are twisted. And so what that means is all of these adjuster screws are in here. And once I got, you know, the very first thing I did were brakes. All 4 brakes got changed, all the parts replaced, soft lines, all of that stuff got redone, new fluid, you know, complete. Because I knew it had this motor. So my reasoning was, I know it's going to go fast. I need to make sure it stops before it goes fast. So got the brakes done, came back. I At that point it still did not run. So at that point it was still a couple of years later. I'd still never heard this engine run. I'd had the car for almost 2 years while I was in grad school. So working on it when I could with what little money I was able to scrape together. Took me 2 years to get the brakes done. Once I finally got the brakes done, then I focused on the motor and got the motor running. Got the motor running and instantly knew that the biggest issue were going to be the carbs. That the sitting had not been kind to them, and basically got all kinds of fluid, gas leaking from everywhere. All of the seals had dried up and gone to crap, and then it ran super rough. Just just all kinds of crap. You could tell that they were just gummed all the heck. So rebuilt the carbs, got the carbs rebuilt, and then installed them in the car again, and was trying to adjust them and realized I gotta sit here and like fiddle and like fine tune these adjustment screws, but I have to take the carbs out of the car every time I do it. I can't do any of these adjustments with these carbs in the car. And so from CB Performance, they make a set of swap manifolds, which there's zero difference to them except the bolt pattern is swapped, like the top casting is a little bit swapped, so that these carbs can rotate around so you can access all these adjustment screws. Literally the only difference, So yeah, that was a no-brainer to me. Got those. All of this has been out of the car, cleaned up. Of course, everything was full of cobwebs, all kinds of dust everywhere. Got that all cleaned up. And yeah, so now it starts up, even if it's been sitting for a couple of weeks. It starts up, no problem. If it's been sitting for a couple of weeks, it might crank for a minute, but after that, like today, I had it running twice. It took about 10 seconds of cranking to get it to turn over. The first time, then I came back out a couple hours later. Normally, this is the other way around in my garage. Normally, it's twisted around in my garage. Knew I was going to do some work back here, so I turned it around. When I fired it up the second time, fired right up, no problems. It does idle a little bit high right now. I'd like to tune that down, but I think I've got a little bit of a synchronization issue in the carbs, so that's not quite dialed in. So plan for right now, or the immediate plan, what the project I'm actually going to work on now, you won't be able to get a shot of it. The fuel line, these have got two, each carb's got their own fuel line, of course. These were just drilled. There's soft line, but they were just a hole drilled through the firewall and the hose stuck through it. And when I was rebuilding them and putting them back on, that was something that I forgot about. So I used it knowing that I wasn't going to be doing a lot of driving on it, and so it was okay for then. But that's the project that I'm working on now. Is I'm going to pull the carbs, and I've got bulkheads firewall bulkheads that I'm going to use. So this will screw into the firewall, and then slit fittings will come out either side, and that's what the fuel hose will go on. And that will keep it, that'll keep it, because this motor rocks a lot. And so if you've got this motor rocking, and it's gonna, those hoses are gonna get cut and mangled. So, yeah, so having something like that where those hoses can move and not get cut on a firewall or the sharp metal, absolutely essential. So that's kind of the next project that I'm working on.